So Christian, what do you think makes a good coach?
Wow, what makes a good coach? I think the ability to be authentic. So authenticity, I think, is good for coaching. Why is that? Because I think you can only connect with people who are authentic. So it makes it easier to connect. What makes a good coach is somebody who believes in others. So you have to, I think, have as a starting point a belief in other people. I think what makes a good coach is somebody who doesn't rush to judgment or rush to solutions. I think a coach is able to work at the pace of the coachee so we can work alongside. So maybe what makes a good coach is somebody who's good at walking alongside others.
Hmm. That's nice. I like that. And do you find it can be quite difficult to be a coach like during this pandemic because obviously you're not face to face and things are like online? What do you think?
I don't think that the being online is an issue. I think that a lot of the things that make for successful coaching can be translated online. And if we think about access, I think it gives more people access. So I quite like the idea that coaching is going online. Is it more difficult during the pandemic? I think the answer is also yes. And that's because we're all experiencing the pandemic together. And
Mm.
so, as coaches, and I include myself in this, I've had good days and bad days. And the really important thing for a coach is to be fully present for our coachees. So, sometimes, and I'll just talk for myself, sometimes the things I'm going through myself, I think sometimes are distracting me because I'm experiencing this pandemic as well. I'm having to deal with stuff. So I do think it's more difficult now for that reason. I don't think it's to do with online. I think
Mm.
I would suggest to people who want to be coaches, the best place to train is probably online because you have to be even more alert. You have to be watching out for any data you can pick up. So, yeah, I would say learn to be a coach online is a good thing. And then the face to face for me would be relatively easier than learning the online.
Yeah, that's true. And actually, speaking of online, in this distracted world, I'm like, do you think people actually practice a pure level of listening, as you mentioned in your book?
Do they practice listening? I think learning to be a coach is to practice listening. So we don't do it in our everyday conversations, and it probably would be strange if we did. But I think the great beauty of learning to become a coach is that we train ourselves. I think in the book I talk about it almost like a muscle. This the non-directivity is a muscle that we have to develop. Just becoming more comfortable with the idea that I can support people without telling them what to do. We have to learn. Maybe we have to unlearn something. We have to unlearn the accepted idea that one of the best ways to help people is to tell them what to do. And I don't disagree with that. Many times that is the best way to help people. But if what we're interested in is supporting people's self-confidence, self-esteem, if we're interested in helping people to build self-efficacy, that they believe in themselves, that they're going to develop lifelong skills, then not telling is more helpful than telling.
Interesting. And so, in the same vein, I think you mentioned to become a coach, you need certain skills, a clear conversational framework, and coaching as a way of being. And it's like, how do you think a person can actually adopt this coaching as a way of being?
Yeah, so I think the skills human beings, most professionals in our societies do have the skills already. As we just said, it's about how we deploy those skills. So we listen in a different way, we ask questions in a different way, we summarize and paraphrase with purpose, we notice things. So the skills are the thing that I think we can train ourselves in because those skills allow us to have these conversations. The purpose of the framework is so that we remember as coaches that our role is to manage the conversation. That's what we're doing. We're trying to manage the conversation to create the ideal environment for learning and growth to take place. My view is that as we do those two things with the right intention, and what I mean by that is the intention is that we want to help others. As we do that, we develop the coaching way of being. So I've come to the view that it's impossible to teach a coaching way of being. And there's probably as many coaching ways of being as there are human beings, because
Mm.
remember, it has to be genuine, it has to be authentic. Now, there's some key components of that way of being, which is you actually have to be interested in others, you have to care about them, you have to be curious, but that has to match with a person's personality, their upbringing, their cultural context. So that coaching way of being is a really kind of a difficult thing to capture. However, that's probably the most important thing. That's the transferable thing. So once somebody learns a coaching way of being, even if they're not coaching, hopefully they'll display some of the things that we value in coaching.
Definitely. And actually, I remember we've already sort of gone slightly over this, which is as a personal sort of thing, which is how can an unconfident person or someone who's just naturally introverted be a coach?
Well, now there's two parts to that. So naturally introverted, which is my preference as well, I think makes us better in one-to-one conversations because, as you know, being closer or tending towards introversion doesn't mean that we don't like people. We do like people, but we're actually good at fewer, more meaningful relationships. So I think we're good in one-to-one settings. So for me, that might even be an advantage. We're less likely to be distracted than people maybe who tend towards extroversion, who are looking for energy and all. So there's some advantage there. Now, the confidence thing is a bigger issue we should talk about because um, I think what the confidence that we need to be coaches is our confidence in our ability to listen, to be fully present. That's the kind of confidence we're talking about. So I think that's the thing to focus on. And the question for us to ask is, are we able to add value to others simply by sitting and listening to them? That's where we build. And how do we build that confidence? It's through experience, Saswati, always through experience. So it does require courage because if we're lacking in confidence, there's gonna be all that self-doubt going on. So I would say for those who are feel that they're lacking in confidence, uh, the time for thinking about that is not during the coachee's time to be a little bit challenging. When you're coaching, I would say give them your full attention. And I've experienced some of these self doubts myself, Saswati. And one little phrase I used to tell myself is, it's not about me. So I was coaching a very senior executive for the first time. They were in a very kind of fancy corporate location. And as I got in there, I thought, oh, maybe they didn't know that I don't have this experience. Maybe I'm going to get this wrong. And I had a lot of those little doubts bubbling around in my mind. And I just told myself, now's not the time to think about that because I'm using the coachee's time to worry about something myself. So I told myself, this isn't about me. I brought my attention back to the coaching session. And then I did reflect on it later. So that's my strategies. If I have self doubts, I think to myself, there's time for me to think about this, but it's later. It's not, it's in my time. And then there are things in coaching like coaching supervision. That would be a great place to take some of those doubts. But another positive way of looking at this is that in doing meaningful work, which I think coaching is, maybe we can bring to our own awareness what are the things that may be holding us back from other aspects of our life. So, if we're facing these if we notice we're facing self-limiting beliefs that are getting in the way of our coaching, they may also be getting in the way of other things. So as long as we have a mechanism for acknowledging and accepting, remember being compassionate to ourselves as well, Saswati, to say it's okay to have self-doubt. One thing I've learned by coaching hundreds of people is that's everybody experiences self-doubt at different levels. And for some people, it's more of a challenge than others, but everybody experiences it. So I would say we all have self doubt. That's okay. coaching might be a way we can support others and start to address those self-doubts in ourselves and work on ourselves as well. I think that's something I've done. I think I've developed as a human being a lot as a result of my opportunity of coaching, of being coached, of training others to be coaches.
Yeah, that's so true, because this is a wider issue, isn't it? And it's not just down to the coaching aspect, isn't it? Yeah, so definitely something that needs to be addressed. I don't want to take too much of your time because I know you're about to head off to your next meeting, but thank you so much, Christian. I really appreciate it. I know, I'm sorry that was very short and sweet, but I really appreciated all of those responses.
Thank you. And just to conclude, I think, yeah, you're right. It is broader than coaching the way I see it. But I know a lot of people learn coaching simply because they want to have new conversational skills, and I think that's okay too. But I do think that there's an opportunity to really embrace this and think, because we get to see human beings at their best. In coaching, we really get to see these are human beings. What I've learned through coaching is that most people are well intentioned. Most people are trying to do the right thing. Most people face a lot of challenges in their lives. So I have much more admiration for human beings now as a result of the privilege of being able to talk to them in confidence about what they're really thinking, their real desires, their real anxiety.
So the power of vulnerability, isn't it?
Yeah, amazing.
Indeed.
Vulnerability is amazing. And the irony of it is, and Brene Brown talks so beautifully about all of this stuff, but the irony of it is it takes courage to be vulnerable. That's the real irony. And I think development in coaching, to become more advanced as a coach, I think it involves the coach being more willing to be vulnerable, and the more experienced we are. But it's ironic. You have to be experienced. You have to have courage to be vulnerable. So I think it's a fascinating topic, and I really appreciate, Suswati, your interest in it and the approach you bring to it and the passion you have for what it is you do. So thank you so much, Suswati.
No, thank you as well. I've learned so much from you, even just from this conversation. So I really appreciate it.